The phone call that shattered my world came on a Tuesday morning while I was debugging code at my desk. Mom's voice carried that sickeningly sweet tone she used when delivering devastating news wrapped in fake concern. We called the venue and canceled everything, she announced as casually as discussing the weather. My coffee mug slipped from my fingers, crashing against my keyboard. That girl isn't right for you, Travis. We're saving you from making the biggest mistake of your life. Dad's gruff voice joined the conversation from the background, adding his final blow: the deposit's non-refundable, so we saved you money too. My heart stopped. 3 weeks before my wedding to Sarah, my own parents had just destroyed everything. I sat frozen at my cubicle, staring at the coffee spreading across my workstation, while my mother continued her justification through the phone speaker. The open plan office around me buzzed with normal Tuesday activity, but everything felt surreal, like watching life through thick glass. Sarah and I had planned this day for 18 months. Every detail, every vendor, every guest invitation had been carefully coordinated around our dream ceremony at Riverside Gardens. Travis, honey, are you still there? Mom's voice pulled me back to the nightmare. I know you're upset, but someday you'll thank us. That Sarah has been manipulating you from the beginning. We can see what you can't. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed with an incoming call. The display showed Marcus Chen from Riverside Gardens. My stomach dropped further. This had to be the venue calling to confirm the cancellation, probably demanding explanations about deposits and vendor notifications. I have to take this, I muttered, switching lines without saying goodbye to my parents. Mr. Travis, this is Marcus from Riverside Gardens. I'm calling about a rather unusual situation. Someone claiming to be your mother just called attempting to cancel your wedding reception scheduled for September 23rd. Yes, I know. My parents just told me they... Here's the thing. Marcus interrupted, his voice carrying a confused edge. They can't cancel your event. According to our records, you're listed as the property owner. I wanted to check with you directly before contacting security about this unauthorized cancellation attempt. The words hit me like a physical blow. Property owner. Marcus had no idea what bombshell he'd just dropped. 6 months ago, after Grandpa Joe passed away from pancreatic cancer, I'd inherited Riverside Gardens, along with a mountain of debt and neglected maintenance issues. The inheritance had come with stipulations in his will that I couldn't sell the property for 5 years, forcing me to either abandon it or find a way to make it profitable again. I'd kept the inheritance secret from everyone except Sarah, wanting to surprise my family when we successfully revitalized the struggling venue. Every spare dollar from my software engineering salary had gone into roof repairs, kitchen renovations, and landscape restoration. I'd worked double shifts and weekend contracts for months, slowly bringing the place back to its former glory. Mr. Travis, are you there? Should I file a harassment report? No, Marcus. Please ignore any cancellation attempts unless they come directly from me. In fact, I need you to increase security for the next few weeks. I'll explain everything when I see you later today. Understood. For what it's worth, the renovations you've been funding have made this place incredible again. Your grandfather would be proud. After hanging up, I sat motionless for 20 minutes, processing what had just happened. My parents hadn't just tried to cancel my wedding, they'd attempted to interfere with my business, my property, my future. They knew nothing about Grandpa Joe's will or the financial sacrifices I'd made to honor his memory by restoring his beloved venue. The betrayal cut deeper than any argument we'd ever had. They hadn't even called to discuss their concerns or asked to meet Sarah properly. They'd simply decided my life needed their intervention and acted unilaterally to destroy the most important day I'd ever planned. My phone buzzed with text messages. 3 from my mother, 2 from my father, all variations of "we know you're angry, but you'll understand eventually," and "Sarah isn't who you think she is." Reading their words made my hands shake with rage. They'd crossed a line that couldn't be uncrossed. I grabbed my jacket and headed for the parking garage. My manager could handle my afternoon meetings. I had more pressing matters to address, starting with a face-to-face conversation with the people who just declared war on my happiness without realizing they'd attacked their own son's business in the process. The drive to their house in suburban Atlanta gave me 45 minutes to plan my approach. Part of me wanted to storm in screaming about property ownership and legal consequences, but a larger part needed to understand their reasoning before revealing just how catastrophically they'd miscalculated their interference. My parents lived in a pristine colonial house on Maple Street where every lawn was perfectly manicured, and every mailbox matched the neighborhood association's strict guidelines. I'd grown up in that house, played basketball in that driveway, learned to drive in that cul-de-sac. Walking up the familiar brick pathway now felt like approaching enemy territory. Mom answered the door wearing her favorite floral apron, the one she used for serious cooking projects. Her face lit up when she saw me, probably interpreting my visit as acceptance of their decision. "Travis, I'm so glad you came. Your father's in the living room. We have so much to discuss about getting your life back on track." Dad sat in his leather recliner reading the Atlanta Journal-Constitution with reading glasses perched on his nose. At 58, Robert still carried himself like the military officer he'd been in his 20s, all straight posture and clipped speech patterns. He folded the newspaper precisely when I entered, giving me his full attention. "Son, I know today's been difficult, but your mother and I have information you need to see. We didn't make our decision lightly." Information. I sat on the couch opposite his chair, fighting to keep my voice steady. What kind of information justifies canceling someone's wedding without their permission? Mom settled beside me, producing a manila folder from the coffee table. Her movements carried the deliberate care of someone presenting evidence in a courtroom. "We've been worried about Sarah for months. Her behavior, her secrecy, those late nights she claims are work-related. Sarah works in marketing, Mom. Client deadlines don't follow 9-to-5 schedules." "That's what we thought too," Dad interjected, removing several 8x10 photographs from the folder. "Until we decided to verify her stories." The first photograph showed Sarah sitting across from a tall man with dark hair at Bean There Coffee Shop downtown. They were leaning close together, sharing what looked like an intimate conversation. Sarah's hand rested near his on the small round table, and she was laughing at something he'd said. The timestamp indicated the photo was taken last Thursday at 2:15 in the afternoon, when she told me she was in client meetings. My chest tightened as I studied the image. Sarah looked relaxed and happy, more animated than she'd been around me recently. The man appeared roughly my age, well-dressed, obviously comfortable with her company. "There are 6 more photos from 3 different meetings," Mom said softly. Always the same coffee shop, always during her supposed work hours, always very cozy. The subsequent photos showed similar scenes: Sarah and the mystery man walking together outside the coffee shop, sitting in his silver BMW, talking, embracing goodbye near her car. Each image captured moments that looked undeniably romantic, intimate, in ways that had nothing to do with business relationships. "We hired a private investigator after I saw them together at the grocery store 2 weeks ago," Dad explained. "Professional surveillance, completely legal. We needed proof before approaching you with our concerns. This man is her secret lover, Travis." Mom added, her voice heavy with sympathy. "She's been carrying on this affair for at least a month, possibly longer. We couldn't let you marry someone who's betraying you so blatantly." I stared at the photographs, feeling my world tilt sideways. The evidence looked genuine, professionally shot, clearly time-stamped. Sarah's body language in every image suggested comfort and familiarity with this stranger I'd never heard her mention. The investigator also discovered financial irregularities. Dad continued producing bank statements and credit reports. "Sarah's been spending money on expensive items that don't appear in your shared apartment. Designer clothes, jewelry, weekend trips she's never mentioned to you." "Where did you get these financial records?" I have connections at the credit union where I work, he said, not meeting my eyes. Nothing illegal, just verification of publicly available information. The point is, she's living a double life you know nothing about. Mom reached across and squeezed my hand. We know this hurts, sweetheart, but imagine how much worse it would be if we discovered this after the wedding. At least now you can end things cleanly without legal complications or divided assets. I sat in stunned silence, studying each photograph again. The man looked familiar somehow, though I couldn't place where I might have seen him. Sarah's expressions were genuinely happy, relaxed in ways I hadn't seen lately. Our relationship had been strained recently with wedding planning stress and my secretive work on the venue renovations. Who is he? I finally asked. We don't know yet, Dad admitted. The investigator is still working on identification. But whoever he is, Sarah's clearly more interested in spending time with him than being honest with you. We saved you from public humiliation, son, Mom added. Imagine if she'd left you at the altar, or if this affair had come to light during your honeymoon. At least this way you can handle the situation privately. Standing up abruptly, I scattered the photographs across their coffee table. My hands shook as I tried to process everything they'd shown me. The evidence appeared damning, but something felt wrong about their investigation, their timing, their complete certainty about Sarah's guilt. You hired a private investigator to spy on my fiancé without telling me. We protected you, Dad said firmly. That's what parents do when their children can't see danger clearly. You violated her privacy, interfered with my relationship, and canceled my wedding based on photographs that could have innocent explanations. What innocent explanation involves secret meetings with another man? Mom demanded. Travis, you're in denial. We understand that's natural when someone you love betrays you, but you have to face facts. I moved toward the door, needing distance from their certainty and my own growing confusion. I need to talk to Sarah before making any decisions. Of course you do, Mom called after me. But honey, please be careful. People in her situation become desperate when cornered. She might say anything to preserve her deception. Driving away from their house, I felt completely lost. The photographs were undeniably troubling, but my parents' methods felt wrong, invasive, calculated. They'd built an entire case against Sarah without giving her any opportunity to explain or defend herself. More disturbing was their assumption that I needed their protection from my own life choices. I was 28 years old, financially independent, capable of managing my own relationships. Their intervention felt less like concern and more like control, as if they couldn't accept that I'd chosen a partner without their approval. But those photographs haunted me during the drive home. Sarah laughing with a stranger, comfortable in ways that suggested deep familiarity, spending time she'd never mentioned during hours she'd claimed were occupied with work responsibilities. By the time I reached our apartment, I'd decided to confront her directly about the evidence my parents had gathered. If there were innocent explanations, I needed to hear them. If there weren't, I needed to know the truth before our wedding day arrived. Our apartment felt different when I walked through the door, charged with the tension of unasked questions and unspoken accusations. Sarah was in the kitchen preparing dinner, humming softly while chopping vegetables for what smelled like her famous chicken stir-fry. Her blonde hair was pulled back in the messy bun she favored after long workdays, and she wore the oversized Georgia Tech sweatshirt I'd given her for Christmas. She looked up when I entered, her green eyes immediately registering concern. You're home early. Everything okay? You look like someone stole your lunch money. We need to talk. I placed the manila folder on our granite counter between the cutting board and her glass of white wine. My parents visited me today. They showed me some things I need to ask you about. Sarah wiped her hands on a dishtail towel, studying my expression carefully. What kind of things? Instead of answering, I opened the folder and spread the photographs across the counter like a poker hand, revealing a losing bet. Sarah's face went through several expressions: confusion, recognition, surprise, and finally something that looked like relief mixed with exasperation. Oh, for crying out loud. She laughed, picking up the photo of her and the dark-haired man at being there. Your parents hired someone to spy on me. This is Danny, my brother. He flew in from Portland last week to help me plan a surprise. Your brother? I studied the image again, looking for family resemblance I'd somehow missed. You never mentioned he was visiting. Because it was supposed to be a surprise Travis. For you. She moved to our junk drawer and retrieved a manila envelope I'd never seen before. Danny's been helping me plan our honeymoon. You mentioned once that you'd always wanted to visit Scotland, so I've been secretly arranging a 2-week trip to Edinburgh and the Highlands. She spread brochures, hotel confirmations, and travel itineraries across the counter next to the surveillance photos. The documents were detailed, and extensive flight reservations to Glasgow bed and breakfast, bookings in small villages, tickets for castle tours, and whiskey distilleries. Danny works for a travel agency in Portland. Sarah continued, her voice gaining confidence as she explained. He's been helping me navigate the logistics of international travel, currency exchange, travel insurance, all the details I've never handled before. We've been meeting during my lunch breaks to finalize arrangements. I picked up a hotel confirmation for the Witchery by the Castle in Edinburgh, dated for our honeymoon week. The booking was in both our names with a special notation for honeymoon suite, complimentary champagne and chocolates. This is why you've been secretive lately. Working late, taking mysterious phone calls. I've been coordinating with tour guides, making dinner reservations, researching the best hiking trails in the Highlands. Danny's been invaluable because he has industry connections that got us better rates and access to experiences that book up months in advance. She showed me her phone, scrolling through dozens of text messages between her and someone listed as Danny P. The conversations were entirely focused on travel planning, weather considerations, packing suggestions, restaurant recommendations, transportation options between cities. He was supposed to fly back to Portland yesterday, but his return flight got canceled due to weather. That's probably when some of these photos were taken. We were figuring out rebooking options and discussing last-minute changes to our itinerary. Looking at the evidence with this new context, everything shifted. The intimate body language now looked like siblings collaborating on a complex project. Her laughter became the shared joy of planning something special for someone she loved. The long conversations were detailed travel logistics, not romantic rendezvous. I wanted to surprise you with the trip documents on our wedding night, Sarah said quietly. After all the stress of venue planning and family coordination, I thought it would be perfect to hand you an envelope and say, pack your bags, we're going on an adventure. Why didn't you tell me Danny was in town? I would have loved to meet him properly. You've been so stressed with work lately, pulling those extra shifts and weekend projects. I didn't want to add social obligations to your schedule. Besides, most of our meetings were quick lunch breaks between my client appointments and his phone calls with Portland. Guilt washed over me as I realized how thoroughly I doubted her based on surface appearances. My parents had photographed genuine family planning and constructed a narrative of betrayal around completely innocent activities. Sarah, I'm so sorry. My parents convinced me you were having an affair. They made this whole presentation with financial records and surveillance photos and wait, her expression darkened. Financial records. How did they get access to my personal financial information? Dad said he used his connections at the credit union. Something about publicly available information. That's not publicly available, Travis. That's an invasion of privacy, potentially illegal, depending on how he accessed those records. She paced to our living room window, staring out at the parking lot below. Your parents hired a private investigator to spy on me, illegally accessed my financial information, and then used that manufactured evidence to cancel our wedding without consulting either of us. I think they genuinely believed they were protecting me. From marrying someone who loves you enough to spend 3 months planning a surprise honeymoon to your dream destination. Her voice carried hurt that cut deeper than anger. Travis, this isn't protection. This is control. Before I could respond, my phone rang. Sarah's best friend Jessica was calling probably with last-minute wedding coordination questions. Sarah smiled and gestured for me to answer, clearly expecting normal bridal party communications. "Hey Jessica, what's up?" "Travis, I'm calling to tell you I won't be participating in this wedding anymore." Jessica's voice was cold, formal, completely unlike her usual warm demeanor. After what I learned today about Sarah's character, I can't in good conscience stand up for her. "What are you talking about?" "Your mother called me this afternoon. She explained about Sarah's affair, the financial deception, everything your parents discovered during their investigation." "I'm honestly shocked, Travis. Sarah had me completely fooled, but your family saved you from making a terrible mistake." Sarah's face went pale as she listened to my side of the conversation. She gestured frantically for me to put the phone on speaker. "Jessica, there's been a misunderstanding." "There's no misunderstanding. Your parents have photographs, financial records, documented evidence of months of deception. I feel awful for believing Sarah's lies, but I'm grateful your family had the courage to expose the truth." "The man in those photos is Sarah's brother," I said firmly. "He was helping plan our honeymoon as a surprise. My parents misinterpreted completely innocent family meetings." "That's exactly what someone would say when caught cheating," Jessica replied. "Travis, I know this is painful, but you need to face reality. Sarah isn't who you think she is." The call ended with Jessica hanging up before either of us could explain further. Sarah sank onto our couch, covering her face with her hands. They called Jessica. Who else did they contact, Travis? How many people have they turned against me based on lies and illegal surveillance? I sat beside her, finally understanding the full scope of my parents' interference. They hadn't just canceled our wedding venue. They'd launched a campaign to destroy Sarah's reputation throughout our entire social circle. "I need to call Jessica back, explain everything properly." "You think she'll believe you? Your parents presented her with professional surveillance photos and official-looking financial documents. They probably sounded completely credible, concerned family members protecting their son from a manipulative woman." Sarah was right. Jessica had known my parents for years, trusted their judgment, respected their opinions. A few words from me claiming misunderstanding wouldn't counteract detailed evidence and emotional appeals from people she viewed as authority figures. How many other people did they call Sarah? Our wedding is in 3 weeks. If they've contacted our entire guest list, convinced everyone you're a cheater and a gold digger, then our wedding becomes a public humiliation instead of a celebration. She finished quietly. Even if we prove my innocence, people will always wonder if there was truth behind the accusations. We sat in silence for several minutes, processing the magnitude of what my parents had set in motion. They'd created a crisis that extended far beyond venue cancellations and deposit forfeitures. They'd attacked Sarah's character and credibility throughout our entire community, potentially destroying relationships that had taken years to build. "There's something else," I said finally. "Something I haven't told you about, why my parents' interference is even worse than you realize." The next morning, I called in sick to work and spent 4 hours methodically investigating my parents' campaign against Sarah. What I discovered made their interference look less like concerned protection and more like calculated sabotage stretching back months before Danny's visit or any suspicious coffee shop meetings. I started by checking our mail delivery patterns. For the past 3 months, several important documents from Riverside Gardens had never reached our apartment mailbox. Vendor contracts, renovation updates, final payment confirmations. All correspondence that should have kept me informed about the venue's progress toward our wedding date. A call to our postal service revealed that someone had filed change of address forms, redirecting all mail from Riverside Gardens to my parents' house on Maple Street. The signature on file was a decent forgery of my handwriting, good enough to pass casual inspection but obviously fake when compared to genuine samples. "When did this redirection begin?" I asked the postal supervisor, June 15th, the request was filed in person by someone claiming to be the primary addressee. June 15th was exactly 1 week after I'd started receiving vendor quotes for major renovation work. Someone had deliberately intercepted those communications, preventing me from staying current with project timelines and budget considerations. Next, I examined our bank statements more carefully than ever before. My father's position at First National Credit Union had given him access to monitoring tools that revealed not just account balances, but spending patterns, transaction locations, even merchant category details. I found evidence of his surveillance dating back to February, when I'd first started transferring funds to pay for venue improvements. Every payment to contractors, every purchase at home improvement stores, every consultation fee paid to wedding vendors had been tracked and categorized. More disturbing, I discovered my father had used his position to influence my credit reporting. Several inquiries appeared on my credit file that I'd never authorized, along with soft pulls that suggested someone was regularly monitoring my financial activity for changes or new obligations. "This is stalking," Sarah said when I showed her the evidence. "Your father used his professional position to illegally monitor your private financial information for months." But the deepest violation was still to come. Among my mother's text messages, which I accessed through her forgotten iPad at their house, I found months of coordination with someone I never expected: Amanda Rodriguez, my ex-girlfriend from college. The message thread revealed a conspiracy that made my stomach turn. Amanda had been feeding my parents detailed information about Sarah's daily routines, work schedule, social activities, and personal habits. She'd been reporting on our relationship dynamics, our arguments, our stress levels during wedding planning. Amanda's messages painted Sarah as manipulative, materialistic, and secretive. She claimed Sarah had made disparaging comments about my family, my career prospects, my physical appearance. She suggested Sarah was settling for me while seeking better options, using our relationship as financial security while exploring other romantic possibilities. "She's been playing the long game," one of Amanda's messages read. "Sarah's smart enough to keep her options open while locking down the safe choice. Travis deserves someone who actually loves him, not someone calculating her next move." The coffee shop meetings with Danny had been Amanda's suggestion. She'd somehow learned about his visit from Sarah's social media posts and encouraged my parents to hire surveillance, knowing they'd interpret innocent family interactions as evidence of infidelity. Amanda arranged for Sarah to meet Danny at Being There specifically because she knew you'd be monitoring, Sarah said, reading over my shoulder. "She set up the situation to look as suspicious as possible." The text messages also revealed Amanda's deeper motivations. She'd been struggling financially since graduating with an art degree that hadn't led to stable employment. Her messages hinted at jealousy over our apartment, our relationship stability, the expensive wedding she couldn't afford to attend as a guest, let alone host herself. I could have made Travis happy. Read one particularly bitter message to my mother. "I understood his family values, his career goals, his genuine personality. Sarah's just using him as a stepping stone to something better." Most shocking was Amanda's confession that she deliberately sabotaged Sarah's job performance by providing negative feedback to her supervisor during a fake client reference call. Amanda had posed as a dissatisfied customer, claiming Sarah had been unprofessional, unreliable, and dismissive during a supposed marketing consultation. That explains why Sarah's been stressed about work lately, I realized. Her boss has been questioning her client management skills based on fabricated complaints from someone who's never actually worked with her. The conspiracy extended even to my own workplace. Amanda had contacted my project manager, claiming to be a concerned friend who'd heard about my financial overextension due to wedding expenses and Sarah's pressure for an elaborate ceremony. She'd planted seeds of doubt about my focus and judgment, suggesting I was making poor personal decisions that could affect my job performance. "She poisoned the well everywhere," Sarah said quietly. "Your workplace, my workplace, our social circle, your family relationships. She systematically undermined my reputation throughout our entire community. The scope of the campaign was breathtaking in its thoroughness and cruelty. Amanda had spent months studying our lives, identifying vulnerabilities, and exploiting every opportunity to create doubt and suspicion about Sarah's character and intentions. But the smoking gun was Amanda's final message to my parents, sent the day before their venue cancellation call. The timing is perfect. Hit hard now, while Travis is stressed about money and wedding logistics. Present your evidence as concerned parental love, not suspicion. He'll be grateful eventually for saving him from someone who never really loved him. This isn't coincidence or misunderstanding. I told Sarah as we reviewed all the evidence together. This is a coordinated attack designed to destroy our relationship and our reputation. Amanda convinced my parents they were protecting me while using them to execute personal revenge against both of us. Sarah was quiet for a long time, processing the magnitude of what we'd uncovered. When she finally spoke, her voice carried a determination I'd rarely heard before. They made one crucial mistake, she said. They assumed you'd never investigate their claims or question their evidence. They expected you to accept their intervention gratefully and walk away from our relationship without looking deeper. What do you want to do about this? I want justice, Travis, not just for us, but for every couple who might face this kind of manipulation in the future. Amanda and your parents committed crimes: mail fraud, identity theft, financial stalking, workplace harassment, defamation. They can't be allowed to destroy people's lives without consequences. That means going up against my own family in court. That means holding people accountable for their actions regardless of their relationship to you, Sarah corrected. Your parents aren't victims here, Travis. They're perpetrators who got manipulated by someone with personal grudges, but they still chose to break laws and violate privacy to interfere with your adult relationships. Looking at all the evidence spread across our dining room table, I realized Sarah was absolutely right. This wasn't family concern gone wrong. This was criminal conspiracy disguised as parental love. The only question now was whether I had the courage to pursue real consequences for the people who'd tried to destroy my happiness. Planning my response required the same methodical approach I used for complex software development projects. Every detail mattered, every sequence had to flow logically, every outcome needed careful consideration. I spent 3 days developing a strategy that would expose the conspiracy while protecting Sarah from further harassment. Step 1 involved securing legal representation. Through a referral from my company's corporate attorney, I contacted Patricia Williams, a family law specialist, who also handled harassment and defamation cases. Patricia was a sharp woman in her 40s, with silver-streaked black hair and the bearing of someone who'd fought many battles in courtrooms and negotiation chambers. This is one of the most comprehensive harassment campaigns I've encountered, Patricia said after reviewing our evidence. Your parents and ex-girlfriend coordinated multiple criminal acts: mail fraud, financial stalking, identity theft, workplace interference, and defamation. The documentation you've gathered could support both criminal charges and civil lawsuits. What would you recommend as our first step? Public exposure, she said without hesitation. Your parents launched this campaign by spreading lies throughout your community. We counterattack by revealing the truth to those same people, forcing your accusers to defend their actions publicly rather than operating in the shadows. Patricia helped me draft a legal letter documenting the conspiracy and demanding immediate cessation of all harassment activities. The letter would be served simultaneously to my parents and Amanda, along with copies sent to everyone who'd been contacted with false information about Sarah. But I wanted something more dramatic than legal paperwork. My parents had humiliated Sarah by calling her character into question publicly. They deserved the same treatment when their own behavior got exposed to family and community scrutiny. I want to call a family meeting, I told Sarah. Get everyone together who turned against you based on their lies. Make them face the truth in person all at the same time where they can't individually rationalize or make excuses. That could backfire spectacularly. What if they don't believe our evidence? What if they double down on supporting your parents? Then at least we'll know exactly where everyone stands. Right now, we're fighting rumors and whispers. A public confrontation forces people to choose sides based on facts rather than gossip. I called my mother on Thursday evening, adopting the defeated tone of someone who'd accepted unwelcome truth. Mom, I need to talk to the whole family about Sarah and our relationship. Can you arrange something for Sunday afternoon? I think you and Dad were right about her, and I want everyone's advice on handling the situation. My mother's voice practically glowed with satisfaction. Oh, sweetheart. I'm so proud of you for seeing clearly. Of course, we'll gather everyone. Aunt Carol and Uncle Jim cousin, Mark, and his wife Grandma Betty, if she's feeling well enough. We all love you and want to help you through this difficult time. Thanks, Mom. I really appreciate how much you care about my happiness. The fake gratitude tasted bitter, but it accomplished the goal of ensuring maximum family attendance for Sunday's revelation. My parents would invite everyone who turned against Sarah, creating the perfect audience for exposing their conspiracy. Meanwhile, Patricia arranged for a process server to be ready Sunday afternoon. The legal papers charging my parents with mail fraud and financial stalking would be served during the family gathering, creating maximum impact and preventing them from claiming ignorance about the legal consequences of their actions. Saturday evening, I called Marcus at Riverside Gardens to finalize security arrangements and confirm our wedding was proceeding as planned. Marcus, I need to ask a huge favor. Would you be willing to attend our family meeting tomorrow and verify my ownership of the venue? My parents still don't know I inherited the property, and I want their reaction on record when they find out. Absolutely, this whole situation has been surreal from my perspective. Your parents tried to cancel an event at a property owned by their own son, then acted like they were doing you a financial favor. Bring all the ownership paperwork, inheritance documents, everything that proves I've been the legal owner since March. Also, bring photos showing the renovation progress over the past 6 months. I want them to see exactly what they tried to interfere with. Sunday morning, Sarah and I prepared for battle like soldiers suiting up for combat. We organized our evidence into clear, chronological presentations that would be impossible to misinterpret or dismiss. Bank records, text messages, postal fraud documentation, workplace harassment proof, Amanda's conspiracy communications, everything arranged to tell the complete story of what had really been happening behind our backs. Are you ready for this? Sarah asked, as we loaded the evidence boxes into my car. Once you confront your family publicly, there's no going back to pretending everything's normal. Everything stopped being normal the moment they decided to sabotage our wedding, I replied. I'm tired of protecting people who tried to destroy our happiness based on lies and illegal surveillance. We arrived at my parents' house 15 minutes before the scheduled meeting time. Cars were already filling their driveway, and lining the street, Aunt Carol's silver Camry, Uncle Jim's pickup truck, Cousin Mark's SUV, Grandma Betty's ancient Lincoln Continental. My stomach churned with nervous energy, but my resolve remained firm. This ended today one way or another. My mother greeted us at the front door with embraces that felt like a predator welcoming prey. Travis, I'm so glad you're here. Sarah, sweetheart, we're all family here. Please don't feel uncomfortable. We just want what's best for everyone. The living room was packed with relatives I'd known my entire life, faces reflecting various mixtures of concern, curiosity, and judgment. Aunt Carol sat primly on the couch beside Grandma Betty, both women wearing the serious expressions reserved for discussing family crises. Uncle Jim and Cousin Mark stood near the fireplace talking quietly about work and weather, while obviously waiting for more dramatic conversations to begin. Dad emerged from the kitchen carrying a tray of coffee cups and his favorite store-bought cookies, playing the role of gracious host while preparing to witness what he believed would be my final break with Sarah. Before we start, I announced I invited someone else to join us. Marcus Chen from Riverside Gardens should be here any minute. I want everyone to hear his perspective on the wedding situation. My parents exchanged confused glances, clearly not understanding why a venue manager needed to participate in family relationship discussions. But before they could question my decision, the doorbell rang. Marcus arrived carrying a leather portfolio and wearing the professional demeanor of someone conducting business rather than social calls. I introduced him to the assembled relatives as the manager of our wedding venue who has some important information to share. Thank you all for including me in this family conversation, Marcus began formally. I'm here because there's been a significant misunderstanding about the wedding cancellation attempt earlier this week. He opened his portfolio and removed copies of property deeds, inheritance documents, and renovation contracts. Travis has been the legal owner of Riverside Gardens since March 15th, when he inherited the property from his grandfather's estate. He spent the past 6 months investing his personal savings into renovating and restoring the venue. The room went completely silent. My parents stared at Marcus as if he'd spoken in a foreign language, their faces cycling through confusion, disbelief, and dawning comprehension. "What do you mean Travis owns the venue?" my mother asked weakly. "He inherited the property along with its debts and maintenance obligations." Rather than abandoning the venue or selling it immediately, Travis chose to honor his grandfather's memory by investing in renovations and hosting his own wedding there as the property's first major event under new ownership. Marcus spread before and after photographs across my parents' coffee table, showing the dramatic improvements that months of hard work and financial investment had achieved. New landscaping, updated kitchen facilities, restored reception halls, fresh paint, and carpeting throughout. When someone claiming to be Travis's mother called attempting to cancel his wedding, Marcus continued, they were essentially trying to interfere with his business operations at his own property. That's why I called to verify the cancellation request rather than simply processing it. Dad's face had gone pale as understanding dawned. Travis, you never mentioned inheriting property from Grandpa Joe? I wanted to surprise everyone once Sarah and I successfully revitalized the venue. Every extra shift I've worked, every weekend project I've taken on has been to fund these renovations while maintaining our regular living expenses. Aunt Carol looked between the renovation photos and my parents' shocked expressions. Linda, Robert, did you know Travis owned the wedding venue when you called to cancel? Of course not, Mom whispered. We thought we were saving him money on deposits and vendor payments. We had no idea. You had no idea because you never asked, I said firmly. You made assumptions about my finances, my relationship, my decision-making abilities, and acted on those assumptions without consulting me or gathering complete information. Uncle Jim cleared his throat uncomfortably. Travis, your parents told us about Sarah's affair, the financial deception they discovered. Are you saying that information was inaccurate? This was the moment I'd been preparing for, the point where everything would be revealed and relationships would be permanently altered based on how people responded to truth versus convenient lies. I'm saying my parents were manipulated into believing lies told by someone with personal motivations for destroying my relationship with Sarah. I announced signaling for Sarah to begin distributing copies of our evidence. Everything they told you about Sarah's character was based on fabricated information provided by my ex-girlfriend Amanda, who spent months coordinating a harassment campaign designed to break us up. The next 20 minutes were a masterclass in public humiliation as I systematically dismantled every lie my parents had spread. I showed Amanda's text messages coordinating the surveillance. I explained how the coffee shop photos showed Sarah planning our surprise honeymoon with her brother. I documented the mail fraud, the financial stalking, the workplace harassment, all of it carefully planned and executed to destroy Sarah's reputation. Grandma Betty spoke first when I finished, her aged voice, carrying moral authority that silenced the room. Robert, Linda, you owe this young woman an apology, and your son an explanation. What you've described, sounds less like parental concern and more like criminal activity. We were trying to protect him, Mom said, weakly, tears starting to flow down her cheeks. You were trying to control him, Cousin Mark corrected bluntly. There's a difference between protection and interference, and you crossed that line months ago when you started spying on his private life. The doorbell rang again. Through the front window, I could see a man in a suit carrying official-looking paperwork. The process server Patricia had arranged to deliver legal documents during maximum family impact. That's probably for you, Dad, I said calmly. Patricia Williams, our attorney, wanted to make sure you received these harassment and fraud charges in front of witnesses who could verify proper service. Dad's hands shook as he accepted the legal papers and read the charges filed against him and my mother. The room remained silent as he shared the documents with Mom, both of them realizing that their protective interference had escalated into an actual legal crisis with potential criminal consequences. Travis, Aunt Carol said quietly, what do you need from us to make this right? I need you to understand that Sarah is the woman I've chosen to marry, that your earlier judgments were based on lies and manipulation, and that anyone who continues spreading false information about her character will face the same legal consequences my parents are now confronting. The meeting ended with my parents sitting in stunned silence, while their siblings and extended family gradually departed, offering apologies to Sarah and congratulations on our upcoming wedding. The public humiliation was complete, but justice was just beginning. The decision to proceed with our wedding as planned became an act of defiance against everyone who'd tried to destroy our happiness. But Sarah proposed something even bolder than a simple ceremony. She wanted to live stream our wedding with complete transparency about what we'd overcome to reach that altar. I want people to see who we really are, she explained while we planned the technical logistics. Not the manipulated narrative your family and Amanda created, but the actual love story they tried to destroy. Let our wedding be the ultimate proof that their lies were groundless. We titled the live stream, The Wedding My Family Tried to Destroy, Here's What Really Happened, and promoted it through social media as an example of overcoming family interference and malicious manipulation. Within hours, the announcement had been shared hundreds of times as people responded to the unusual honesty about wedding family drama. The week before our ceremony, I invited everyone who'd believed my parents' lies. Jessica, our co-workers, who'd heard rumors, extended family members who'd turned against Sarah. Even Amanda herself received an invitation with a note that read, "Come see what real love looks like when it survives coordinated attacks." Riverside Gardens looked spectacular on our wedding day. 6 months of renovation work had transformed Grandpa Joe's struggling venue into something that belonged in Southern Living magazine. White hydrangeas and greenery decorated the outdoor ceremony space, while string lights created magical ambiance for the evening reception. The restored pavilion could accommodate 200 guests comfortably with upgraded sound systems that would broadcast our vows clearly to live stream viewers. Marcus had arranged professional video equipment to capture multiple camera angles, ensuring remote viewers would feel included in every moment of our celebration. By ceremony time, over 3,000 people were watching the live stream, many drawn by curiosity about the family drama but staying for the genuine emotion they witnessed. Sarah's brother Danny walked her down the aisle since her father had passed away years earlier. Seeing them together in person made the coffee shop surveillance photos look ridiculous. They shared obvious facial features, similar mannerisms, the comfortable interaction of siblings who'd grown up together. Anyone who'd met them both would immediately recognize their family relationship. Before we begin our ceremony, I announced to both physical and virtual audiences, I want to address the campaign of lies that almost prevented this day from happening. I spoke directly into the main camera, explaining how my parents and ex-girlfriend had systematically tried to destroy our relationship through fraud, harassment, and manipulation. I introduced Danny, properly showing wedding guests the Scotland honeymoon documents he'd helped Sarah prepare as a surprise. I displayed evidence of Amanda's conspiracy, the illegal surveillance, the workplace interference that had nearly convinced our entire community that Sarah was unfaithful and deceptive. Love isn't just about finding the right person. I continued taking Sarah's hands as we faced each other at the altar. It's about standing by that person when others try to tear you apart, believing in your relationship when everyone else plants seeds of doubt, choosing trust over fear, even when presented with carefully constructed lies. Our vows became a public declaration of survival and commitment that resonated far beyond traditional wedding promises. Sarah spoke about forgiveness without weakness, setting boundaries with toxic people, while keeping hearts open to genuine love, choosing partnership with someone brave enough to fight for their relationship. The ceremony's most powerful moment came when Sarah's former maid of honor, Jessica, approached during the reception, tears streaming down her face as she publicly apologized for believing lies without seeking truth. I let my assumptions about family loyalty override my knowledge of Sarah's character. Jessica admitted to the cameras, "I've known Sarah for 8 years. I should have trusted that knowledge instead of believing accusations that contradicted everything I'd observed about her integrity and love for Travis." Several other guests made similar public acknowledgments, creating an impromptu forgiveness ceremony that demonstrated healing in real time. The live stream audience responded with overwhelming support, sharing their own stories of family interference and relationship manipulation in the comments section. But the day's most dramatic moment occurred when Amanda appeared uninvited during our first dance. Security cameras captured her approaching the dance floor in a red dress that matched nothing about our color scheme, her face flushed with anger or alcohol, possibly both. "You don't deserve her, Travis," Amanda announced loudly enough for everyone to hear. "I could have made you happy. I understood your family, your values, your real personality. Sarah's just settling for you because she can't do better." The live stream audience watched in real time as Sarah handled Amanda's disruption with grace and strength that impressed everyone present. Instead of responding with anger or defensiveness, Sarah simply took the microphone from our DJ and addressed Amanda directly. "Amanda, I'm sorry you're in so much pain that destroying other people's happiness seemed like a reasonable solution to your problems. I hope someday you find healing and genuine love that doesn't require tearing down other relationships to feel valuable." Security escorted Amanda from the property, while guests and live stream viewers witnessed Sarah's demonstration of maturity under pressure. The incident provided perfect contrast between Sarah's authentic character and Amanda's destructive behavior, settling any remaining doubts about who deserved respect and support. Our wedding reception continued until nearly midnight, filled with laughter, dancing, and celebration that felt even sweeter for having survived organized attempts to prevent it. The live stream ended with over 8,000 viewers, hundreds of supportive comments, and dozens of messages from other couples dealing with similar family interference. "Thank you for sharing your truth with us," read one typical comment. "Watching you fight for each other and expose the lies gave me courage to address similar problems in my own family. Your love story gives me hope that authentic relationships can survive any attack." By the time Sarah and I left for our delayed honeymoon in Scotland, the wedding live stream had been viewed over 50,000 times and shared across multiple social media platforms. What had started as personal vindication had become inspiration for anyone facing relationship manipulation and family boundary violations. More importantly, we'd proven that love backed by courage and honesty could overcome even the most sophisticated campaigns of deception and interference. Our marriage had begun not with naive optimism, but with tested strength, and public commitment to protecting our relationship from anyone who tried to undermine it. 6 months after our wedding, Sarah and I stood in the renovated office of Riverside Gardens, reviewing booking calendars that extended 2 years into the future. What had begun as my secret project to honor Grandpa Joe's memory had evolved into Atlanta's most sought-after wedding venue, largely due to publicity from our live-streamed ceremony and the authentic love story that had captured public attention. Henderson wedding next Saturday, Thompson anniversary party the following weekend, and 3 engagement parties scheduled for October. Sarah reported checking our reservation system. We're officially booked solid through next spring. The venue's success felt like poetic justice. My parents' attempt to sabotage our wedding had inadvertently created the marketing opportunity that launched our business into profitability. Couples throughout Georgia were specifically requesting Riverside Gardens because they'd heard about the venue where love had triumphed over family interference. Legal proceedings against my parents had concluded with plea agreements that required community service rather than jail time. Dad completed 100 hours of volunteer work at a domestic violence shelter where counselors helped him understand how controlling behavior damages family relationships. Mom served her hours at a nonprofit supporting victims of harassment, learning about the psychological impact of coordinated campaigns like the one they'd participated in. The community service wasn't just punishment, it was education. Both my parents were required to attend counseling sessions about healthy boundaries, respect for adult children's autonomy, and recognizing manipulation tactics used by people like Amanda. Amanda faced more serious consequences. Her harassment campaign involved multiple felonies, mail fraud, identity theft, workplace interference, and conspiracy charges that resulted in 18 months of supervised probation and mandatory psychological counseling. She'd also been ordered to pay restitution for the legal fees and emotional distress her actions had caused. More satisfying than legal consequences was watching the natural social justice that followed public exposure of the conspiracy. Amanda's manipulation tactics became widely known throughout our community, making it unlikely she'd find future victims willing to participate in similar schemes. People who'd been burned by her lies became watchful for signs of manipulation, protecting others from falling into the same traps. The extended family relationships damaged by my parents' campaign slowly began healing as relatives witnessed genuine accountability and behavior change. Aunt Carol had become one of Sarah's strongest defenders, often joking that my parents' interference had given everyone the chance to see Sarah's true character under pressure. Linda and Robert learned what happens when you listen to troublemakers instead of trusting your own son's judgment, Carol frequently told people. Sarah handled that whole situation with more grace than I would have managed. Grandma Betty, now 92 and still sharp as a tack, had appointed herself Sarah's honorary grandmother and regularly invited us for Sunday dinners where she shared stories about Grandpa Joe and his dreams for Riverside Gardens. "Your grandfather always said the venue would be special again someday," she told us during one visit. "He just never imagined it would take his grandson's wedding disaster to make it happen." The most meaningful reconciliation involved my parents themselves, though it required months of careful boundary setting and gradual trust rebuilding. Dad's counseling sessions had helped him recognize that his fear of losing me had driven him to behaviors that nearly guaranteed that exact outcome. "I convinced myself I was protecting you," he admitted during one of our supervised family therapy sessions. "But I was really trying to control your life because I couldn't accept that you'd grown up and didn't need my guidance for major decisions." Mom's healing process was more complex, involving deeper examination of her relationship with Amanda and why she'd been susceptible to manipulation by someone with obvious ulterior motives. "Amanda told me things I wanted to hear," Mom confessed tearfully. "That you deserved someone better, that Sarah wasn't appreciating your wonderful qualities, that your happiness was more important than some girls' feelings. She fed my maternal instincts while using them to justify terrible behavior. The therapy sessions taught all of us valuable lessons about healthy family dynamics, respect for boundaries, and recognizing manipulation tactics. Our relationship now operated under clear agreements about acceptable involvement in each other's lives, with professional mediation available if future conflicts arose. Sarah approached the reconciliation process with remarkable wisdom, setting firm boundaries while leaving space for genuine relationship repair. She required complete acknowledgement of wrongdoing, commitment to behavior change, and ongoing respect for our autonomy before agreeing to rebuild family connections. Forgiveness doesn't mean pretending nothing happened. She explained to people who wondered why she maintained some distance even after apologies. It means choosing not to let past hurt control our future decisions while still protecting ourselves from repeated harm. Our marriage strengthened through the crisis in ways that might not have developed under normal circumstances. We'd learned to communicate about difficult topics, support each other against external pressures, and make decisions based on our shared values rather than other people's expectations. The Scotland honeymoon. Danny had helped plan became everything we dreamed and more. 2 weeks exploring castles, hiking Highland trails, and experiencing the culture I'd always wanted to discover felt like the perfect reward for surviving the attempt to prevent our marriage. Every moment felt sweeter for knowing how hard we'd fought to reach that celebration together. "Do you ever regret how everything happened?" Sarah asked one evening as we watched the sunset from Edinburgh Castle. "Would you have preferred a normal wedding without all the family drama and public attention?" "Not for a second," I replied honestly. A normal wedding wouldn't have shown us what we're capable of when we face adversity together. It wouldn't have exposed the people who didn't deserve places in our lives or strengthened relationships with those who supported us when things got difficult. Our story had taught us that love isn't just about compatibility and attraction. It's about choosing each other repeatedly when outside forces try to create doubt and division. True partnership means standing together against manipulation, whether it comes from family members, ex-partners, or anyone else who prioritizes their agenda over your happiness. Back at Riverside Gardens, we'd created something more meaningful than just a successful business. We built a place where other couples could celebrate love that had survived challenges, overcome obstacles, and grown stronger through adversity. Every wedding we hosted felt like validation that authentic relationships could thrive despite attempts to destroy them. "What's the most important thing you've learned from everything we went through?" Sarah asked as we locked up the venue office after reviewing the weekend's event preparations. "That sometimes the people who claim to love you most can cause the greatest harm when they prioritize their fears over your choices," I reflected. "But also that real love becomes stronger when it survives coordinated attacks. We know now that our relationship can handle anything because we've already faced the worst people can do to try to tear us apart." Looking back, my parents' interference had been the catalyst for discovering strengths we never knew we possessed, exposing toxic people who needed to be removed from our lives, and building the foundation for a marriage based on tested trust rather than naive hope. Sarah smiled, taking my hand as we walked toward our car. "Plus, we got an amazing wedding venue out of it, and a love story that helps other couples believe their relationships are worth fighting for." That night, as we fell asleep in the home we'd built together despite every attempt to prevent it, I felt grateful for the crisis that had almost destroyed everything we valued. Sometimes the worst things people do to you become the foundation for the best things you build together. The greatest lesson was simple but profound love backed by courage, honesty, and unwavering commitment can overcome any attack from people who prioritize control over compassion. When you choose each other repeatedly, despite external pressure to abandon your relationship, you build something stronger than anything others can tear down. Our marriage had survived the ultimate test before it even began, proving we were ready for any challenge life might offer. And every couple who celebrated their love at Riverside Gardens carried forward that message of hope, that authentic love doesn't just endure adversity, it grows stronger because of it. What family challenges have you had to overcome to protect your relationship? Have you ever had to choose between family approval and staying true to someone you love? Share your story in the comments below. Your experience might help someone else facing similar difficulties. If this story resonated with you, please like this video and subscribe for more real-life stories about overcoming family interference and relationship manipulation. And don't forget to share this with anyone who might need to hear that their love is worth fighting for no matter who tries to tear it down. Thank you for joining us on this journey, and remember, when love is real, it's always worth defending against those who would destroy it for their own purposes. May your relationships be built on trust, strengthened by adversity, and protected by the courage to stand up for what truly matters.